Yeah, I mean, they could have met someone, or they,
Yeah.
and that's it. The other thing too, even in like friendships, or and especially family relationships, when people are like, no one can make us feel anything. Whether we consciously or unconsciously, we choose to feel the way that we do. Now, we can do that because the person's behavior is pushing a button. And I have a perfect story of this. I have a friend of mine. He's part of another group I'm a part of, which is the Association of Transformational Leaders. And this guy, he's a beautiful man. He does incredible work in the world, but he has this behavior where he has to be the center of attention. Like he has to, grab the mic, and he always has to be the center. But he does it in a very needy, unhealthy kind of way. And I tell you what, it drives me insane. And so when this behavior shows up in him, I was talking to my friend about it. I said, there's like 90 people in the room, and I'm the only one that seems to get really bothered by this behavior. So it can't be his behavior. It's just because he's pushing my buttons. But is he pushing my buttons? The question is, why do I have a button? Why does that behavior bother me so much when it doesn't bother everybody else? And then when I really sit down and thought about it, I'm like, you know what? I remember when I was quite young, my mother used to yell at me all the time about wanting to be in the limelight and wanting to be the center of attention and always being so confident, and used to try and, really curb that behavior in me.
Right.
I'm like, that's why that, and it's not the man himself. It's just the behavior that bothers me. Yeah. I'm like, that's because my mother programmed me from a young age to think that being in the center of attention was a bad thing. Mm. I'm like, now I get it. So now, because I know where it comes from, I'm able to release it. Yeah. So, yeah.
That's that great awareness. Fantastic. Yeah. So, can you help us with the most powerful way? What is the most powerful way, Natalie, that you can actually visualize what it is you want in a relationship?
Yeah. So the thing is, often when we sit down to visualize, there are a couple of, let's go through some of the fallacies or some of the things that people believe has to happen when you visualize. So first of all, most people think you have to sit down, you've got to have your eyes closed, and that you're seeing this little vivid Technicolor movie in your mind, and the thing is, people get concerned because they're like, okay, first of all, I can't do that.
There's nothing happening.
I was never able to do that. This is why My Movies exists, because I could never do that. And the thing is, it's then, well, what do I visualize? And you're kind of going from scene to scene and looking at different things, and you're like, and maybe you get little glimpses of a scene that you see, and you're the observer of this movie in your mind. And that's not necessarily the way it has to be done. Yes, it can be done that way. But there are no rules when it comes to visualization. I had in USM yesterday, I had someone say, look, I can't really do that with my eyes closed, but I can do it with my eyes open. Is that okay? I'm like, absolutely. Mm. When you're driving along, so when we're talking before about how powerful the song is, or the music that you use to your My Movie, my original My Movie that I created back in 2006, I used a song called Clocks by Coldplay. And I'm getting goosebumps even thinking about it, because that My Movie and that song was the beginning of this incredibly wonderful life that I get to live. Wow. And so I can't hear that song without being transported into feelings of accomplishment and fulfillment and immense gratitude. Actually, I was in an Uber car the other day, and I could see the guy had it, it was playing a CD, and I could see it was the next song. And I said, do you mind just playing that song for me? And I'm sitting in the back crying and probably thinking you picked up a crazy woman, but having that song, that that associative memory is so important. And so, when we are going through and really thinking about this relationship and this thing that we're creating, having that associative memory is really important. and it's like an associative memory of the future. So we want to have something that we're elevating our emotion to. So when I'm driving in the car and that song comes on the radio, I'm already going into my visualization, but clearly my eyes are open.
Yeah.
And I'm driving, but I'm there in my mind. So you don't necessarily have to have your eyes closed. They can be open. But the most powerful way to do it is something that Dr. Joe has coined the phrase called dimensionalization. And so in his workshops, I actually go and travel with him on his advanced workshops, and I help everyone create their own personal mind movie, which we use in the workshop. And for the last 5 years, he's been brain mapping people at these workshops when they're meditating, visualizing, watching their mind movie. He's been taking all these scientific measurements of cortisol levels and chakra alignment and everything. And his new book that came out in October is called Becoming Supernatural. So all of the science is in that book, and there's a whole chapter on mind movies.
Got to get that, definitely.
Yeah, it's amazing. Anyway, so what he does, one of the ways that he uses mind movies is that, we're watching our mind movie kind of repetitively. And then when we go into a meditation, he gets us to choose just one slide from our mind movie.
Okay. And
then dimensionalize it, which means that we're not seeing it as a movie in front of us. We're actually in it. So, and we're using all of our senses while we're inside this visualization. So, one of the things that I wanted to do in my partner, which is what I talk about in my mind movie, is that we travel together. So I would imagine myself on a beach. So I'm laying on a deck chair and I can feel the heat of the sun on my skin. We're laying there and I reach across and I can hear the waves crashing on the shore. Mm-hmm. And I can see like it's just, crystal blue and it's blue skies. And I reach across and I can pick up a glass and it's cold. I can feel the cold glass in my hand.
So you can actually feel it.
I know, and a pina colada. So, I'm taking a sip and I can feel the coconut and the pineapple because that's what I associate with, beach things, and then I'm looking across at a man who's on the deck chair next to me. And I have this immense feeling of just love. And contentment, and he grabs my hand, and I can feel his hand warming up my hand, and I have this whole scene that I play out. But as you can tell from what I've just described, like all of my senses are at play in this one scene.
It's very strong to really. So you're actually being that person at that moment.
Absolutely, it's like we want to become such an alignment with that future. That in our being, in our core, like we were saying before, the emotions are such a significant part of this whole, visualization process. And it's not like you have to be, because everyone's like, well, what do you feel? You're supposed to feel happy. And I went, not necessarily. In that scene, I'm feeling love and contentment. There may be some scenes that you visualize where you're feeling proud, or feeling accomplished. Or maybe you're just feeling relief. We had one woman in Australia at one of these events. She got up and told her story on stage, and her and her husband were having terrible financial difficulties. And so, they were trying to sell their house and had been on the market for months and they didn't have one offer. Anyway, she said to her husband, she goes, look, it's going to work out. Don't tell me how I know. I just know. See you later. I'm going to Dr. Joe workshop.
Hey!
So of course, when we're in this process, she knows exactly what she's going to be visualizing when we do this. So she goes into her meditation and she sees herself. She's in her living room. She can feel the pen in her hand. She's signing the contract. She can smell the real estate agent's aftershave. She can feel the bubbles of the champagne on her nose, and she can taste the champagne. She's just, she had this immense feeling of relief. Because finally, they could sort out their financial things, right? So later that night, when she goes back to her room, she has a text from her husband going, "Call me straight away." So she calls him. He goes, "You're not going to believe this. We just got an offer on the house." Wow. He goes, "It's not for the amount that we want, but maybe we should take it." And she goes, "No, she goes, don't do anything just yet. Just sit on it for a minute. So, of
Wow.
course, we go in the next day. She does the same thing. This time she sees the amount of the contract. And a week and a half later, they got an offer for the amount that they wanted.
No way. How cool is that?
Absolutely. So, as real as we can make it. So our body. So what's happening is that the more frequent, with repetition, the more frequently that we can do this, what happens is we start to create these new neural networks in our brain. So these thoughts and these, because our subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what we see through our eyes and what we play as a very vivid experience in our mind. And so it starts to create new thoughts that are in alignment with this scene that you keep playing. And so when you have, when you're working towards your goal or moving towards your relationship or whatever that is, rather than having all these, negative thoughts as to why you can't do it, all of a sudden these new, more empowering thoughts are coming through that are going to help you, because, these are now becoming your new default. We're creating these new neural pathways for these positive thoughts to align, to travel along and go from your subconscious mind to your conscious mind. Now, when that happens, that's also automatically starting to change your actions to be in alignment with those thoughts. And, often I'll find, and I, especially with something like health and weight loss, like I'll have people go, before it used to be such a struggle to stick to a diet, and they go, now it's like, it doesn't feel like it's an effort. That's because our thoughts are already started. And so which means that our actions kind of fall into line. And then we're feeling what it's like to already be there. So we are now vibrating, because we're all made up of energy. We're now vibrating at a certain frequency, but this frequency is a match to the things that the relationship that we want to attract. So then by law, which is law of attraction, whoever is a match to that frequency then gets attracted to us, through the universe. So.
And that isn't difficult, is it then? Because as you say, because we're in alignment, that's going to come with relative ease.
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to be the first one. Believe me, I was dating for 2 years.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it was easy for me to quickly identify whether this person was for me or not, whether he was my guy. And then, I stuck true to my vision. So as soon as I realized that, whoever I was dating is like, nah, he's not the one, I would just, end it. I would release it. I'm like, because I need to keep this space open for my guy to come in.
Because you have a knowing he's going to be there.
And I'm not going to stay in a relationship or keep seeing someone because it's convenient or because I'm lonely or whatever that is. No, and I think every time that you do that, and you make a decision, it could be anything, opportunities. When you're vibrating at a higher frequencies, opportunities and potential partners come at you all the time because you're at this higher frequency. It doesn't mean you say yes to them all.
No.
But when you're clear about what it is that you want, it's very easy for you to discern quickly, whether it's the right thing for you. I remember when I said to a girlfriend, I said, it's not like I'm, finding men is not the issue because, I live in LA. It's, it's getting really good at the sorting process.
Yeah.
I'm in the sorting business until I find my guy,
Excellent. Yeah. So he's got to tick those boxes. But in the meantime, you're enjoying the process, and that's the important part, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Oh my God, I have so many funny stories. I mean, I'm an Australian in my late 40s dating in LA. I've got some, my girlfriends kept saying, you should write a book. I'm like, I said, because then all I'm doing is collecting stories, and that's not my vision. My vision is to be in a relationship, so I don't want to detract. And, and my little mantra for this year, just because I can doesn't mean I should.
Okay, cool.
Because, I have so many different projects and things on my plate. I've just realized that at the end of 2017, I reviewed my mind movie because I always make a new one at the beginning of every year. And I'm just like, ooh, other than relationship, I'm still working on these projects. And if I'm really brutally honest with myself, they're carried over from 2016. So I'm like, okay, now get serious with yourself. stop being distracted by all these other things and these other projects. You know, you need to focus on one, laser focus. You know, so if, you know, a